Hey, welcome back everyone, or welcome to the world according to Briggs if this is your first time. On this channel we do lists about locations, and types of locations, kind of like a travel channel. After talking so much recently about the book Blue Highways, in case this is your first time here, it's a true story about a college professor who traveled all around the US using back roads only. He visited a bunch of small towns and he wrote a book about it. While talking about it, I kind of noticed going over all my old lists that I haven't done any lists on small towns. They've all been about big cities and the worst cities and liberal and conservative cities, but nothing about small town America, which is most of our country. So I thought I'd make a couple lists about small towns. Small towns are towns that have under 70,000 people, but of course above 1,000 people. Now, full disclosure about these lists, I had to cut California out of the equation because the bottom 32 is all California. Some up in the Oakland area, but a majority of them are down in the Los Angeles area, the Comptons, Hawaiian Gardens, things like that. So I just cut California out of the equation. So being fair to the small town folks, I thought I'd start these lists. After all, we live in a world these days where some people go over everything you do and say searching for something to be offended by. I mean, I already have one guy pissed off at me because I haven't included Possum Trot, Kentucky on any of these lists so far. So here's my top 10 worst small towns in America. Number 10, Kokomo, Indiana. First of all, this place is in the middle of nowhere. An hour north of Indianapolis, up the Westfield Boulevard, you find Kokomo, Indiana. If you're pulling a U-Haul, keep driving. This place has bad jobs, bad weather, and a bad history. Kokomo has been struck by 18 tornadoes between 1950 and 2015 and one giant Klan rally, attended by over 200,000 Klan members. If that's not fun enough, Kokomo's mayor in 1881 was shot dead by a sheriff's posse after he robbed the local flour mill. In the early 1980s, Kokomo made national news for expelling a child who contracted AIDS from a blood transfusion. Like I said, keep driving. Number 9, Ardmore, Oklahoma. Ardmore is one of those places every young girl dreams of moving out of. The kind of place where people say stupid stuff like, "You got a future at the plant, boy, don't screw it up by growing your hair long. In just 3 to 5 years, you could be pulling down $25,000 a year. You can't beat money like that." Ardmore only has 25,000 residents, and according to the stats, each one of them has a solid chance of being assaulted every single day. They had more than 400 assaults reported in 2016. On top of that, it's just a matter of time before the plant shuts down, and 1,900 more people are on welfare. This place was an energy town for a long time. And of course, this led to highly contaminated water, like most energy towns. And in 1915, a train containing gas exploded, killing 45 people and destroying much of downtown. Nobody seemed to mind because they built the new portion just outside the burn mark from the explosion and called it good. Hey, here's a fun fact. John Hinckley Jr., the guy who shot Ronald Reagan, he was raised in Ardmore. I wonder if he drank that water. Number 8, Niagara Falls, New York. Niagara Falls? I always thought this was a nice place, and to my surprise, it's one of the most dangerous small towns in the state of New York, and also the country. While many of the crimes that occur in Niagara Falls may be targeted at tourists, residents have a 1 in 25 chance of being robbed every year themselves. Is this the type of place you'd consider relocating to? Not a lot of people do. Nobody's moving into Niagara Falls. The average home in Niagara Falls costs $68,000. $68,000. Now that's like Mississippi backwood prices. 5th cheapest average home price in the country, and they still can't get people to move in there. Way to go, Niagara. Number 7, Anderson, Indiana. This is the second Indiana city on our list. But if you know Indianapolis and the area around it in Indiana, you know that central Indiana is in bad shape when it comes to crime and jobs. Anderson is in the top 13% when it comes to the sheer number of crimes for a town of this size. When General Motors closed its operations in Anderson, this city was dealt a major economic blow, as GM was the biggest employer in Anderson. Folks who still live here have a daily struggle finding good jobs. It sucks when Walmart is your biggest employer in town. Side note, I know a lot of trivia. I do a lot of reading, and I like trivia things, and I just know trivia. Things that'll never get me ahead in life, but I enjoy it. And I can tell you, it blew me away when I looked up Anderson. They have 40 people listed as notable residents or people, famous people from Anderson. I didn't know any of them. Not one. That's the first town I've ever come across with that many people. I have no idea who any of them were. Number 6, Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Every state has a bad town or two. North Carolina has a serious one in Rocky Mount. This city of about 58,000 people was listed as the 9th most dangerous city in terms of assaults in 2016. Not many of the more serious crimes, murder or whatever, than other places, but assaults are pretty frequent, about as frequent as Match.com commercial. See them all the time. I hate those commercials. But I'm sure they play those commercials a bunch in Rocky Mount. Rocky Mount is 23rd on the list of 101 cities with the highest percentage of single-parent households. If they did play those commercials, I'm sure nobody would see them because the unemployment rate is so high nobody can afford cable. Number 5. Pine Bluff, Arkansas. The only category keeping Pine Bluff from ranking first on this list is the fact that the public school system seems to be well funded. This city has problems, and most cities with high crime and low property value have underfunded schools. Not Pine Bluff. They're doing something right there. When you can buy a home for $70,000 in a place with a good school system, you have to wonder why. Well, it's violent crimes and pills. That's your answer. This town is in the middle of a serious pill and heroin fight. And it's too bad. Google this town and look at the street view, go up and down the streets. Looks like this place was really nice once. It's too bad. And number 4, Leitchfield, Kentucky. Congratulations, Bluegrass State, you made the list. To be fair, Kentucky has some really nice towns. Litchfield ain't one of them. Litchfield is probably the worst place you could live in Kentucky, and I bet you want to know why. Number 1, I was stabbed by a guy from Litchfield while in the Army. Probably shouldn't have asked a man sharpening a bayonet if the KY and KY jelly is because they use so much of it in the Kentucky backwoods. His reply was, "No, you stupid ass." And I replied, "What brand do you use in the Kentucky backwoods?" And he stabbed me. The twisted part, we're still friends on Facebook. Number 2, the unemployment rate is about 13%, the schools are underfunded, and the property values are well below state average. Got a serious meth and pill problem, and a home costs about $85,000, which is a true sign your town blows. In Litchfield, you have a 1 in 35 chance of being the victim of some type of property crime every single year. Don't move to Litchfield. Number 3, Elkhart, Indiana. Another Indiana town has made the list. Elkhart is just outside of South Bend, where the University of Notre Dame is. In Elkhart, 1 in 9 residents are without jobs. And home prices are about as low as you can get. It's $65,000. It's the average. I watched a video of a home foreclosure auction, and the highest bidder was $37,000. The guy filming it said, at $37,000, this guy won't be able to flip it and make a profit. Are you kidding me? If you just have the framing in California on a burnt-out lot next to a trailer park, $37,000, you could flip it and make a fortune. When you can buy a home on a first-year Taco Bell crew member income with no down payment, your town sucks. They have so many abandoned homes in Elkhart, it's crazy. There was a report that a whole block lost power. Nobody reported it for 3 days. The few residents that lived on that block thought they just hadn't paid their bill and weren't able to, so nobody called. Took them 3 days to realize that there was like a transformer or something out on the block. Number 2, Fort Pierce, Florida. Fort Pierce is a dangerous place where it's really hard to get a job. City of under 42,000 people shouldn't have 8 murders every year. More than 1 in 9 people are without jobs. And most of those jobs they do have are in the neighborhood of minimum wage. Fort Pierce is an old Army installation back from the Second Seminole Wars. Seminole Indians. We used to fight them, I guess. When you're in Fort Pierce, you have a 1 in 68 chance of being the victim of a violent crime every single year, according to the FBI website. Fun times in Fort Pierce. This is also another place where an odd amount of adults go missing. Adults vanish here, like some kind of twisted magic show. This is also the hometown of a bunch of sports stars and Edwin Binney. Binney. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he is the co-founder of Crayola Crayons. So that's a plus. And number 1, Gallup, New Mexico. Right now you're saying Gallup, New Mexico, where is that? Well, for starters, it's in New Mexico. This small city is really isolated along a stretch of the I-40. Now, it's near a Native American reservation. It's been well documented that living outside of a Native American reservation is extremely dangerous, especially for white folks. I won't speculate on why, but I'm sure it has a lot to do with the actions of white folks. Just a guess. But this town is 16th in the most violent small towns in the nation, where locals had a 1 in 47 chance of being the victim of a violent crime. Property crimes are also sky high. And they are 15th in the nation in unauthorized use of another human being's body. I can't say what that is, or what it's really called, or the new Google system will actually flag my video for a couple days till they actually watch it and deem it advertiser friendly. But I think you know what I'm talking about. One other stat about Gallup, New Mexico, they ranked 5th, as in 5, in the nation of residents who've drank alcohol within the last 30 days. A lot of drinking goes on in Gallup, New Mexico. Well, that's my list. I hope you enjoyed it. Kind of a little downer on this one. We're small towns, but I thought we'd do it anyway. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you give me a big thumbs up. Tell me if you think I missed another small town or if there's one near you that's horrible. Maybe I'll cover it the next time we do this subject. But hey, everyone have a great day. Don't forget to share this on your social media. Don't forget to give me a like, a dislike, leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Be nice to each other, everyone.